Ann Coulter to appear at UC Berkeley. We got to get Ann on. What are you doing? You going to go talk at UC Berkeley?
Why, apparently I am.
Oh, this is, I may have to fly out for this.
Yeah.
I mean, really, yeah, I guess UC Berkeley decided they are for free speech now, or I'm just clueless how this came to pass.
Well, so am I, but I'm sort of hoping that's what the idea was. They're embarrassed and they should be, at what happened with Milo, so they're going to show that they can hear opposing viewpoints without smashing Starbucks windows.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll have your usual coterie of protection, because I worry about you.
Yeah, me too. It just seems to me it would be so hacky to do the exact same thing they did with Milo. I mean, apart from anything else, what, you're just going to keep doing the same thing? No, come up with something new.
They're not that clever.
Like questioning me in question and answer.
Yeah, but they're not that clever. They just, it's like, look at Charles Murray. I mean, they don't read the book, but they brand them a racist. And you can't expect them to suddenly get mature or to get smart. It's not going to happen. But as long as you're protected, I think it's all good, because it continues to point out to the mainstream and the media that there is no freedom of speech on college campuses, and that anyone who doesn't toe their line is going to be punished for it.
Yes, it's been like that for a while, though. Generally, I mean, I've never had a speech shut down in America.
Right, in Canada.
Yeah, those nice Canadians.
Yes, exactly.
That was so insane.
Right.
But I've never had it. And I wrote about this at the beginning of one of my books. I think it was if Democrats had any brains, they'd be Republicans, because I've given so many college speeches over the years. And so I was dividing up what to expect on a college campus. And I sort of hate to say this, but it's true. It's really obvious. It's really overwhelming. If you look at the SAT scores generally, before going to a school, the higher the SATs, actually the politer they will be.
Right.
Which is contrary to what my expectation would be. I mean, you'd think we always make fun of places like Harvard, but no, they do want to challenge you. They're smart kids. They think, I have the question. And that's actually really fun to engage with smart liberals. It tends to be, historically, the community colleges, the junior colleges. Not that I have any problem with those. I'm sure there are a lot of smart kids who are really doing great things. But that's what it tends to be, where you get the most violence. It's just as if they really are like little kids. I can't challenge you intellectually, so I'm going to throw something.
Yeah, but Berkeley is no.
I know. That's why it ought to be fun.
Yeah, well, good. I hope so. As I said before, it's almost worth the price of admission. Just make sure you got big, brawny guys all around you. I don't know about you, but I'm going through some real, I'm very upset about some of the things that are happening right now. And number one, these tweets against the Freedom Caucus.
Yes.
I mean, what is that all about? Does Donald Trump forget who got him elected?
Oh, yes, this is very disturbing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was on Lou Dobbs yesterday and said whoever told him this was a good idea ought to be fired and kept away from him as far as possible. No, I'm getting nervous too. It's beginning to look a little like the Bush administration.
Yeah, look at the people around him. Ann, can you name one constitutional conservative with the exception of Jeff Sessions? One.
Steve Miller.
Okay, Steve Miller. And, okay, I'll give you Steve Miller.
Yeah,
but the rest of them are New York liberals.
There are only 3 people on mourning in Washington before the nuclear bomb.
Right. That's true. But the rest are New York liberals. They might be Republican liberals, but these are not the people who I want to be the last voice in his ear before he goes into decision making.
No, I know. It's a big problem. This idea that, I mean, it's really disturbing that, first of all, this idiotic Obamacare light that Ryan came up with. This is just classic Republicanism. This is why people hate Republicans. They will never actually give us freedom to purchase a legal product in America, health insurance. They will never remake the system no, they just accept, okay, well, we already have a socialist system. We'll give you less stuff.
Right.
Great. Yeah, that's what we want. How about, well, as I suggested in my column this week, keep the Obamacare for the people who the welfare cases, but give the rest of us a free market in health insurance. If I can just buy health insurance that isn't paying for other people's transgender operations, pregnancies, prenatal care, I want health insurance for medical problems that in a million years I might possibly have, and it is illegal to sell me that policy in America. Just make that legal, and within a year, 80% of Americans would be on free market plans. They'd cost about $50 a month. Even people who think they need Obamacare now would be getting the free market plans because they'd be so great. Mm-hmm. And for those people who, whether they're just, slothful layabouts and are welfare cases, or if they're just unlucky, and I say it with no malice, if they just have very expensive medical problems or the pre-existing conditions, those are welfare cases. Mm-hmm. Whether you like the word or not, that should be paid for out of the general fund, out of income taxes, not through Ann's health insurance premiums.
Right, but they don't believe in the free market. I mean, that's obvious to me when I read this plan. Yes. They just don't believe in it. They do think that government should have the final say in all of my decision making. That's who Paul Ryan is. I had a professor of his on earlier in the week, an economics professor, who said, I don't know what happened to the guy. He used to be a free market guy, and that's gone.
No, it reminds me when the Soviet Union was collapsing, the Soviet, I guess, premier, Yeltsin, mm-hmm. Reportedly said to Margaret Thatcher, because they were going to try to move to, they see all the goods and products and freedom and, what a prosperous place America is. And he reportedly asked Margaret Thatcher, but how do you know what price the bread should be? Ugh. That's Paul Ryan.
Yes.
He wants to design the health care plans. When I started reading that Obamacare Light plan he has, when I start reading, and for people who are making within 100 and 115% right. of the poverty level, their premiums shall be, no. How about a company set my premiums, a company whose business it is to sell an attractive product, to compete with other companies at a good price, providing things we need. That's how everything improves access and costs for every product we buy in America, and yet these members of Congress, and sadly, unfortunately, Trump or his advisors don't understand either. And the great part about my plan is nobody gets thrown off anything. There's no one to protest. Mm-hmm. Keep the welfare cases, just pay for it out of the general fund, and let the rest of us buy health insurance on the free market. So many people would start buying free market plans. They'd be great. We'd get those little geckos advertising the different
That's
health
right.
insurance
State
plans.
Farm, Allstate, all of them. Let them sell it.
And there's no one to protest. I mean, I do understand. You understand politics. A lot of times you get these purist conservatives or libertarians or whatever who will say, this is the plan we need. And you'll sit back and think, yeah, that's great, but no one can vote for it. Right. My plan, Democrats could not vote against.
Mm-hmm. No. Listen, I was reading an article by Mickey Caucus the other day. He said, well, if it's such a big problem and you got so many people in so much trouble, expand Medicare. You already got the program, and let the rest of us who aren't 55 plus instead of 65 plus, let us go back to the free market. That's all. I mean, there's 100 different designs that I've read and thought about that would work perfectly well. None of them look like what Paul Ryan presented. What about Mo Brooks? One sentence, repeal Obamacare. We'll discuss the replacement later.
And then to say the next thing he's doing is tax cuts. I really want tax cuts, but that's not what he won on. No, that's not the issue. And moreover, all the stuff he's doing now is just standard Wall Street Journal, Paul Ryan, corporatist stuff. What does Wall Street want? Mm-hmm. All of those things can be changed as soon as a Democrat comes in. Okay,
exactly.
Great. Taxes go back up. Fantastic. Welfare gets expanded. Even the judges he puts in. Okay, that counts for something. We have those for a few years. You know what's forever? who comes into the country and becomes a citizen and has anchor babies, and whether we have a wall.
Yep.
These are the things that will save America. This is what we elected him for. We'll deal with everything else later. Save America first.
Right, but he surrounded himself with open border guys like Reince Priebus and Paul Ryan. Even Steve Mnuchin and guys like that. These are not they're not on our side on the immigration issue, and they're the voices that he's listening to. The best thing he did was travel the country. I think at some level he really related to those of us who came out to hear him speak. He was energized by us, and he felt for us. Now he's in Washington, and the only people he's seeing are these crap sandwiches that we have in the Congress and in the Republican leadership. It's crazy. Now he's talking about working together with Chucky Schumer. I'll shoot myself, Ann. I will. I will shoot my leg.
Well, if he said that, and even if he invites, Chuck Schumer over for movie night and coffee, I mean, he does always do this. He's a charming person. I don't care how nice he is to them. I do care when he is not pushing the issues that got him elected. I think he should be listening to no one but Corey Lewandowski and Stephen Miller, who led this were the idea guys, besides Trump himself, for this magnificent campaign that overturned the Republican establishment, that gave us something fresh and new. Because instead, what we're getting right now, I just want to see something that isn't the same thing that Jeb would have done.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm getting Nixon redux, and we could talk about that at another time. One last question. What does General Flynn need immunity for?
Maybe for something he's done that has nothing to do with Trump. This is a standard, I ought to say, and your listeners probably know this already. Any lawyer would do this. Of course you say that before you offer up anything. But as for what my completely wild speculation is, I haven't even been paying that much attention to it, but the stuff that Flynn was doing with Turkey that had nothing to do with Trump or the Trump campaign. And the same thing with Manafort, earlier clients he had. Right now, his lawyer is correct. We are in a witch hunt atmosphere, so you would particularly do this. But even if we weren't in a witch hunt atmosphere, hey, remember, who was it? Was it Huma who got full immunity to testify?
No, it
before
was the chief of staff, Cheryl Mills.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, listen, you can't make this stuff up. They need to depose Evelyn Farkas, Dr. Farkas, who pretty much told us outright that, we were surveilling and, we were leaking the information like crazy.
Yes, because we needed to keep an eye on Trump. I love how she was so proud of it. Now they're pretending it didn't happen.
Right. Well, give her immunity. I want to hear the rest of the story. Not General Flynn. He got taken down. Anyway, Ann, I'm definitely going to Berkeley. I'll be there. I want to be right by your side when this happens. Whatever happens, if it's a great event, that'll be even better. But
that's fantastic. April 27th.
I'll be there. All right. You take care. We'll talk soon. Ann Coulter, pick up the books. Where is, I heard you were coming here somewhere local.
No, I'm doing Modesto the next day, and there are some. It's weird. There are these people protesting it. Modesto is a nice little farming town.
Yeah.
And I looked up the alleged protesters, and get this. They're all the heads of these Hispanic grievance organizations. They're all, 90% Anglo. But this is what their jobs are.
Yeah.
Check with the farm workers. I think they'd like a raise.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ann. Take care. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.